So I was just watching Breaking Dawn Part 2. It's on I think it was MTV or Channel E or something. And as I was watching it, I remember why I actually kind of still like the Twilight series. I know it has a lot of flaws and everything. Like, the two potential love interests aren't my cup of tea as they were when I was a teenager. And there's some concepts in there that were a little weird, like the imprinting and how the vampires, when they go in the sunlight, their skin looks like diamonds. It reflects like their skin is as hard as diamonds, and people see that as sparkling, and it's a little cheesy at times. And Bella kind of gets on my nerves. Although I feel bad because someone pointed out that Bella was kind of a character that was going through depression, and I felt bad that she annoys me as a character. It makes me feel guilty, and I only feel guilty about that and why about not liking a character. But I get you can change your opinions about it. I'm still not her biggest fan, but I guess I can sympathize with her character and understand. And I definitely think compared to the fan fiction that was written for it, 50 Shades of Grey. Twilight is not that horrible. I mean, it's not great, it's not ideal, and there are a lot of things about it that are really just not good, but what can you do? It's done, it's over with, the movies were made, and they are still, they still exist, people still like it, and the books are still, but it's done and over with, and whatever, and I hope people have just moved on. It's just, I was just watching it, so I was thinking about it. But anyway, so I want to talk to you guys about, what I read this week. I didn't read a lot because my parents went out of town to go see my sister, and, one of the reasons I stayed behind, was, well, one, I had to work, and two, they don't like, because my sister doesn't have a fence in her new, she moved into her current house only like a year or two ago, and they don't have a fence in their yard, so I stay home and watch the dogs, so my parents don't have to spend, a lot of money to put them in the kennel. So I stay with dogs, and because of that, I slept downstairs instead of in my room instead of hanging out upstairs most of the day. I hung out downstairs, and that meant I was easily distracted by the TV and watching movies. So the last few days of the week, I didn't really read much. But I only read like two books, and I didn't get very far in them. And then I finished the two stories in this collection. This is Kelly Link's Get in Trouble. She writes a lot of magical realism. And I admit with magical realism, it's like, sometimes it can be really confusing, and you kind of get a little lost in the story a little bit. But maybe that's how magical realism is supposed to be. I mean, I actually watched one of the booktubers was talking about magical realism, and how maybe you're just supposed to get lost in the story, in the plot, because of what magical realism is. But sometimes I had to think about what was going on in the story. But I finished the one about the girl, the 16-year-old girl who was exchanging emails and pretending to be a little bit older than her actual age. And at first I thought maybe she was just writing this guy, telling him what could have happened. But no, I think actually she was writing about what did happen. Like, she goes to the hotel, and I guess the guy ended up not being there. And she's, and there's like two conventions going on at the hotel. There's a dentist convention, and there's a Comic-Con type convention, like a superhero convention. And she runs into these two guys that work at the hotel, I guess, and tells them the truth that she's this young 16-year-old girl pretending to be someone else, someone older, and she was going to meet this guy, and she's now not sure what to do. So that one was okay, I mean, it was interesting. And then the second story I read was Valley of Girls, which I did not know what was going on in that one. Like, it sounded like they were in one of those weird utopia or dystopia type societies, and then they would have, it was all girls, it was a society full of women, and they would have someone represent them that they called a face. And these two friends, one of them was in love with the other, and their two faces were caught doing something, and the one that was in love with them, the protagonist of the story, was all like, how could you do this to me? Like, there was some kind of, she did something to make her look like it was kind of scandalous, and she locks her in this place to confront her about it, like a meat locker or something. I was very confused. I'm gonna one day have to reread these stories. Like I said, maybe this is just the effect of magical realism plots. But there's, like, let's see, how many stories left? Wait, I skipped the page. There's there's Origin Story, The Lesson, The New Boyfriend, Two Houses, and Light. So there's, like, I think 5 more stories left for me to read. So it's, hopefully those ones will be a little easier for me to follow, but I'm gonna eventually have to reread the first set of stories, because, I mean, the only one, well, I got what was going on in the one that, Secret Identity, which was the girl exchanging, meeting the older man that she met online. And then I got the one before it, which was, the story about I See Right Through You, about the two couples. The guy plays a vampire. They're a celebrity couple. They have an on and off kind of relationship. And the woman is like a reality, has created a new reality show, and the guy is invited to join them. And so I get what's going. I understood, but the Valley of Girls one, I did not know what was going on. The other two stories I started reading 1984. Actually, what made me pick this one was, I mean, of course I wanted to read it, but there were a lot, as you saw, if you watched my February possible TBR video, there were a lot of books I mentioned that I wanted to read, and this was one of them. I couldn't decide, so I ended up putting a poll on my Facebook group to see which ones I started, and this one had the most votes. So I started reading this one. Like I said, I didn't get very far. Right now we're just learning about the world and all the rules about this world, and how there's, like, things like they were starting to get rid of all the different adjectives to say one thing. And how, one little change in your expression, if your expression is not neutral, then you will be vaporized. If they get any inclination, any sign that you're rebelling against them, even if it's just a teeny tiny thing where you have some expression or something that looks like you're questioning things, then Big Brother will get rid of you. And of course, the main character, as if you've heard about this book, the main character is this guy named Winston, and he's starting to question society, the way things are run. But at the same time, he's been brainwashed so much that he's struggling with this questioning, because that's how they are in dystopian societies, of course. You start questioning it, but some people are just too scared to do it, to question it. And there's also mention that he had a wife once, and he had slept, the relationship with her he was a little disappointed because she was so obedient to the rules of the society, and he was not happy, and he just wanted a relationship where there was something, even if it was just sexual, between them. So they ended up getting divorced. And first he actually hooks up with a prostitute just so he can feel something, and then they end up getting a divorce after. I don't know if she ever got upset about him. Probably not. So obviously I didn't get very far in the book. I've only read chapter 1, but of course these chapters are so long. I'm almost done with chapter 1. I don't know how many chapters there actually are. I'm hoping there's not a lot. Because these, like I said, these chapters are really long. I mean, I didn't even think about that. Sorry, I'm actually looking. I'm choosing to look right now. See how many chapters there are. Oh, wait. Did I miss it? Oh, I hate when these pages are folded. Let's see. Okay, well, I'm not going to waste your guys' time. I'll look later. And then I also started reading Leah Mecham, her novel Roses. I did try to get her other, the prequel series that she wrote, because I wanted just to read that first. But, I think prequels, they're called prequels for a reason. Yes, they're about the events before, but people write them after they wrote the original book. Because, so I think it's okay to read them after you read the other book. So people feel like, oh, I have to read that one first, or I want to read that one first. But it's called a prequel. So it's not like it's gonna, alter things or enlighten you, or there are things that you're gonna understand better. I mean, yeah, maybe there are things that you'll understand better. But usually, most of the time, prequels are just are kind of origin stories about what happened and why things are the way they are. I don't think it's a big deal if you don't read those first. I mean, most of the time, people write them after anyway. So, but yeah, so far I haven't again. This is one I haven't got very far. I am gonna read once I'm done filming this. But it's about this famous Texas family owns this cotton plantation, and the family matriarch has decided to sell the place. And her lawyer is a little surprised by this, because that means it will be taken, the place will not be given to her granddaughter, who would be really upset and not understand why she's selling this place, because it's part of their family, it's their family's legacy. And the woman is telling him, no, I need to do this because I need to stop this curse on our family from happening. And then we go into her memories, the woman's memories, and we learn about her teenage year. We're starting with when she was 16 in 1916. This takes place in the 80s. The present day is in the 80s. And she has just inherited the plantation from their father, who has just passed away, upsetting her mom and brothers. Actually, well, her stepmom. Actually, I think it's her stepmom. And so that's as far as I got. I like it so far. I like the writing style, and it's I always like stories that are kind of like family sagas, that still have romance, but it's also about the family itself. And I haven't read a story that takes place in Texas before. I haven't read a lot of southern. I mean, I've only read one now that I think about it. I only read Gone with the Wind, and they actually compared this to Gone with the Wind. That's actually one of the reasons why it caught my attention. It first caught my attention because I think it was Leslie from Words of a Reader talked about this book. I think she was the one who talked about it, and or it might have been one of the other girls I watched. I always think of her when I think about books like this. But she might not have been, because there are a lot of booktubers I watch that read historical fiction. So finally, I saw this at Art Used Bookstore and decided to buy it. And I did attempt to buy. I was gonna buy the other one, the prequel, but it did not have it at the store. But I like the writing so far. The story is definitely really interesting, and I love that it is big print. It's not like huge, but like with books that are over 500 pages, I almost prefer big print, large print books. the only reason I will, as I told my friend, the only reason I will buy mass market paperbacks is because they're cheaper and I can take them with me places. Now, I could technically fit this one in my purse, but it's kind of big, so it's kind of heavy. And I carry a lot in my purse, so those are the two I'm focusing on right now. But some of the ones I'm thinking of are the ones I mentioned in my TBR, of course. This was actually, I think this was the second book that was talked about. That was the next choice. The next one to have the most votes in the group. But I kind of wanted to read something that was, well, I guess I could have read this one too, because it's kind of the same. Actually, yeah, I could have. It's the same genre as. But I also, well, I guess the other reason being I hadn't read 1984 and I had read this before. So that's why I ended up picking that one over this one. But this is Fahrenheit 451, another dystopian. Which actually it's perfect because it is about the importance of books and knowledge. And how getting rid of that would be a perfect way for the government to control us, because that books give us knowledge and power. So I'm gonna look at that one, and this is one I've been thinking about reading. I've had this book for a while. Isn't that cover really pretty, really cool? I love that cover. And so with this whole effect, I almost wish that this had, I wish it wasn't, I wish that this part of it had something was a little more three-dimensional, this actual part, the design. But, I wanted to step back from fantasy, although sci-fi and fantasy are kind of neighbors at times. But I wanted to step back from fantasy and read something different, because I read a whole bunch of fantasy. I mean, maybe even only fantasy back in January. So I wanted to do something different, so that's why I included Roses. But this one I'm thinking about. And I don't know much about it. I mean, I did read the description, but I don't want to waste time reading that to you guys. All I know is that it's about two sisters. They are given this mission, and they get separated at one point, and they have to find each other again, and they get help from a thief and a royal guard. So I'm guessing there's romance in this. I really hope this is not one of those. I hope it's not a series, because then it means more books that I need to buy. As much as I love series, it adds up on my shelves. It takes up space. And, as I've said in the past, my mom has told me she's not going to buy me another bookshelf, and I'm sure these bookshelves aren't cheap. I mean, what I would like to buy is those ones that are where they have little cubbies instead of shelves like this. I mean, I don't know if that would add more room or take less room, or if it would be less room for me to include books, but I like to get one of those. And I don't know where I would put it, though. I mean, there's still some stuff that I want to hang up on my walls, too, so. But I can't do that myself. I need a little help with that. So, I want to read this one, and if you can't tell, it's Sea of Shadows by Kelly Armstrong. So I wanted to check out that. And then another fantasy. And of course there's another fantasy. I want to get back into this series. I want to read the third book in the series, The Fallen Kingdoms, which is Gathering Darkness. I'm eager to find out what's going on with my favorite characters. And how's the war going and everything. Especially when I kind of got spoiled for a certain ship. I want to see what's going on with that ship right now. Is it sailing yet? And then, let's see. Thankfully, this is not a fantasy. This is actually historical fiction. And I just realized I have another book by this same author, Alison Pataki, that I got from the used bookstore, which is The Trader's Wife, about Benedict Arnold's wife, and how she is kind of the cause for him for betraying America, if you know your history. But this one is The Accidental Empress, is about an Austrian empress, and she's seen through the eyes of her younger sister. So I want to read that, and I think I'm kind of sort of doing. I'm not putting a lot of effort into it, but I am considering the 2018 challenge, but I'm not taking it too seriously. So if the books I read fit the criteria of the 2018 reading challenge on, I think it's BuzzFeed, one of those websites, then this, and I think this one might actually meet one of the challenges. I don't know though, but I mean, like I said, I'm not gonna take it too seriously, but again, if I have to read a books that meet some of the challenges, then I will mark it off that I read one. Of course, there are other things I want to read. The Traitor's Wife this month as well. And then, of course, I gotta finish reading the 7th Harry Potter. I gotta start reading the 7th Harry Potter book. And of course, this one got a lot of votes too, because Harry Potter is a classic. And I was thinking about it. I wanted to read it. It's like I go through moods where I'm really into Harry Potter, especially if I'm watching the movies, because that's what I've been doing. I've been watching the movies now that I've read the first 6 books, reread them. I've been watching the movies as well. But other than reading, the most I did was, like I said, I watched TV. And I mean, like I said, I was just watching Breaking Dawn Part 2. But I also watched Mask of Zorro, Sound of Music again, because I'm hopelessly addicted. I am trash for that movie musical. I fully admit that. I watched Beauty and the Beast. I watched Into the Woods last night. What else did I watch this weekend? And then, I watched a little channel I did a little channel surfing, like, watching HGTV and stuff. But it basically gets to the point where I just have it on as background noise. Especially if I've seen the movies enough times. Like, Sound of Music I've seen so many times that I have that movie practically memorized. And I also decided, I was thinking about last night, I was watching, like, I don't remember which booktuber it was, I can't remember, but she was talking about how she wants to do a new rating system. I mean, I can't do it differently than on Goodreads, and I will still use the star rating system, but I've actually thought about doing something different myself. So I did this, if you can see, I don't know if you can actually see. In case you can't, I did a little chart. I have first column is genre, then characters, then descriptions, writing style, conflict, twist, extras, and the final score. I'm giving them numbers, not 1 through 5, but 1 to 10, possibly. I was going to do a color thing, but then that would be really confusing, and I would have to figure that all out. So I think I'm going to just go the traditional route of doing the numbers. And when I mean extras, is like, how there's certain genres that they have certain things, like fantasy or romance, although I don't really read romance that much. They all have like certain aspects of them that are only in that genre. So that's what extras means. And of course, characters, what I would rate the characterization, what I would rate the person's descriptions, which I guess could go with writing style. So I could put that in the same category. But I kind of just threw this together, so I might change it and just put those two together as one column. Conflict, the problem of the plot, the conflict of the plot, the big twist at the end, because, I mean, I think in most genre there's some kind of twist. And then the extras in the final score. And I would rate this 1 through 10, usually, just to do something different. Like, I feel like, as other people say, the star system, it doesn't fully cover your feelings. it just kind of simplifies it, which is, it's not a bad system. It just, when you read a book, there's so much more to it than just, did you hate it? Was it, Was it, you liked it, but you didn't love it and won't read it again? Then there's, you really loved it and you might read it again. And then there's, oh my god, you're in love with this book. That's how I look at it as, the 1 through 5. This is going to go through March and February. So, hopefully I'll get a few more than 2 books in February read, but I don't know, considering how long those books are. Those 2. So that's what I did this weekend. That's how my reading went. It wasn't that great. It wasn't ideal, but that was my own fault. I fully admit that. I let myself get distracted. I mean, as soon as I start watching TV, I can tell myself, oh, I'll only watch it during meals. But I don't like quiet that often. I like some kind of noise in the background. And once I start watching something, my eyes are glued to the screen. Anyway, what did you guys read this weekend? Out of curiosity, what do you guys think of the Goodreads rating system? Well, I guess, anyway, I will talk to you guys later. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. And please subscribe if you like my videos and haven't already. Right. Bye. Okay.